All right, go ahead and open up your notes, and we're going to do the examples on the left side, the ratio examples. So starting with problem 1, we have 3 different ratios here that we're looking at, and we want to give them in simplest form. So basically, we are doing what you have learned how to do. You probably started in 5th grade, and then you've done it, mastered it, I hope, in 6th grade. One of the ways, this may be a little different than the way you simplified. You might have did little slashes and showed a 2 and then did the numbers. For me, this is a little cleaner and it still works. So when you are simplifying, technically the ratio is equivalent. So as you can see, 2 over 2 is 1. So I'm doing the same thing to the top and the bottom to keep the ratio equivalent. So that has the effect of a 1. But 8 divided by 2 is 4. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So the ratio of 8 cats to 2 dogs is the same as the ratio of 4 cats to 1 dog. That's the simpler form. Notice how I use labels. On the next one we look at here, you can see that it's a little more complicated. I'm going to go ahead and do the numbers first since that's more natural. So I divide, both of those are divisible by 13. So I divide the top and bottom by 13, and I end up with xy over 3x. Now I notice that both the top and the bottom have an x in common, so I divide both the top and bottom by x over x. X divided by x, any number divided by itself, is 1. So it doesn't matter what x is, it will simplify to 1. So my final answer is y divided by 3. Now notice that I am listing this sort of in fraction notation, but the answer asks for it in colon notation. And I'd like to say notation, it's not technically a fraction. Finally, on this last problem, this is actually one of the easier ones, but you can do multi-step simplifying here. So I didn't do 8 at first on purpose. I simplified by 4 over 4, and then I noticed that both of those, 6 and 9, were divisible by 3, so I simplified by 3 over 3. Hopefully you are copying these into your notes. Feel free to pause at any time to get these all written down. I'm going to go ahead and move on to example 2. Now, you notice how before, when we had labels, and I said, well, sometimes you're going to want to use color. So I took advantage of color in this instance, and you can see I did segment AB in red. Segment BC is in purple, go Cedar Ridge, and the whole segment is in green. So I went through and I colored all the labels. So you can see I found all the ABs and I colored them red. And I found all the BCs and colored them purple, and all the ACs and colored them green. And then I just took the corresponding number for that color. So I knew AB was 8 and BC was 12, so it's 8 to 12, which does simplify to 2 over 3. Now on the next one it says AC, which is the entire segment, and to BC. Now, you notice it didn't say 20 up here, but it's not that hard to figure out. If A to B is 8 and B to C is 12, the whole thing together is 20. So my ratio there is 20 to 12, and that does simplify to 5 over 3. And then I have AB to AC, same idea, 8 to 20, that simplifies to 2 to 5. Example 3. There are 2 complementary angles are in the ratio of 2 to 7. Find the measure of each angle. So remember, that is the simplified ratio. The angles probably are 2 degrees and 7 degrees. That's not complementary. Complementary means adding up to 90 degrees. And 2 plus 7 is only 9. So that won't work. So I know my original angles were probably more like 2x and 7x. I just don't know what this mystery number was that I had simplified out. So but I can use the fact that I know about complementary angles and the fact that they add up together. This angle has to add up to 90 degrees. So I set up an equation and I say the first angle plus the second angle, 2x plus 7x, has to equal 90. 2x's plus 7x's are 9x's equals 90, and you can probably figure out, oh, x is 10. Now that's not the final answer. Remember, always look for what they're asking for. Don't stop just when you get x. They're asking for the 2 angles. So I can figure out, well, one of them's 2x, so one angle's 20, and the other one is 7x, and the other angle's 70. So I didn't bother to show a lot of work on that particular piece. Finally, example 4. They say there are 3 angles in the triangle, and the ratios are 1 to 3 to 5. Well, what are the measures of each of the 3 angles? And so you can see here I say, okay, same idea as last time. Obviously, the angles aren't 1 degree, 3 degree, and 5 degrees. That's simplified. They simplified by some number in common. We'll call it x. And so I drew a triangle, and I know that triangles have to add, all the angles in a triangle have to add up to 180. So I set up my equation, 1x plus 3x plus 5x equals 180, which means if I have 1x plus 3x's plus 5x's, that gives me 9x's, and that's 180. And you can probably see that, oh, okay, x has to be 20. So I go ahead and I'm not done. I have to find the angles. So I take the 20 and I substitute it back in for x. So 20 degrees is 20, 20 degrees is 60, and 20 degrees is 100. So you have 20 degree, 60 degree, and 100 degree angles in your triangle.